It was a cold and quiet evening. Driving along a desolate road far from the city, Morgan Freeman found himself lost in deep thought. The darkness enveloped everything around him, broken only by the faint glow of his car's headlights. Suddenly, something caught his eye. A movement on the side of the road. At first, it seemed insignificant, something easily overlooked, but then, illuminated briefly in the headlights, the sharp motions of a man demanded his attention. Morgan stopped. Trusting his instincts, he pulled over and stepped out of the car to investigate. As he exited the vehicle, the scene before him became clear. A man stood menacingly over a weak and emaciated dog. The dog lay helplessly on the ground, its frail legs trembling as it tried to move. The man, however, looked poised to strike, lifting his foot as if to kick the defenseless animal. Morgan took a deep breath, steadying himself as he marched toward the man with purpose. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" he called out, his voice cutting through the stillness of the night. The man froze momentarily, startled, before turning and snapping back. "This dog's probably Rabid. It's been wandering around here for days. It needs to be put down." Morgan's gaze shifted to the dog, lying there in pain, its frightened eyes locked onto him. The fear and hopelessness in those eyes gripped Morgan's heart. Turning back to the man, Morgan's voice was calm but firm, laced with a quiet authority. "Who gave you the right to decide this animal's fate?" he asked, his piercing eyes meeting the man's. "This creature hasn't done anything to you. Violence isn't the answer, especially not towards something as defenseless as this." The man shrugged dismissively. "It could be rabid. It might hurt someone. I'm just," he began, but Morgan cut him off mid-sentence. "Just what? Killing it?" he said, his voice rising slightly. "Did you ever consider helping instead? Maybe this dog doesn't need punishment. Maybe it just needs compassion. Kindness isn't weakness. It's what makes us human. Now, leave this place. Walk away." The man hesitated, caught off guard by Morgan's conviction. His shoulders slumped slightly as he muttered, "All right, fine. Your call." Before slowly walking away into the night, Morgan watched him leave, letting out a deep breath of relief before turning his attention back to the dog. Morgan knelt beside the trembling animal, his voice soft and soothing. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you," he murmured. The dog flinched at first, shying away, but something in Morgan's tone seemed to calm it. Every shiver in the dog's frail body only deepened Morgan's resolve. He could feel the weight of the animal's loneliness and desperation. "You're not alone anymore," he said gently. "I'm going to help you. I promise." At that moment, Morgan made a decision. No matter the difficulty, he was determined to save this dog and give it the life it deserved. Carefully, he scooped the dog into his arms, feeling its fragile body tremble against him. Carrying it to his car, he placed the dog inside and drove away, the headlights cutting through the darkness of the road ahead. As he drove, one thought echoed in his mind. This isn't just about saving a dog. It's a test of humanity. Morgan carefully lifted the trembling dog into his arms and carried it to his car. As he drove, he picked up his phone and urgently called a nearby veterinary clinic, explaining the dire situation. By the time he arrived, the dog's condition had worsened. Its labored breathing and weak movements made it clear that time was of the essence. The veterinarian quickly assessed the dog, her expression turning serious. "This dog has severe infections and is malnourished. It's critical that we start treatment immediately," she explained. But as they examined the dog further, the vet added, "There's a possibility it could be rabid. If so, it will need to be quarantined for safety." Morgan listened intently, taking in every word. Without hesitation, he replied, "Do whatever you have to. This animal deserves a chance." As the treatment began, the scars of the dog's past suffering became even more apparent. Morgan watched as the veterinarian and her team worked, his heart heavy with the realization of how much pain this animal had endured. Quietly to himself, he muttered, This is more than just a dog. It's a reflection of who we are as humans. After ensuring the dog was in good hands at the clinic, Morgan stepped outside to get some air. The image of the dog's frail and battered body lingered in his mind, refusing to leave him. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath, trying to center himself. But when he opened them, he froze. A familiar face was approaching him. It was the man who had nearly kicked the dog earlier that evening. The man sauntered over, a smug expression on his face. "What are you doing? Why bother keeping that mutt alive? It's just a stray. Why waste so much effort?" he sneered. His dismissive tone and lack of empathy struck a nerve in Morgan. It wasn't just about the dog. It was about the callousness and indifference that such words represented. Morgan paused, letting the silence stretch, his gaze fixed firmly on the man. Then, with a steady voice, he replied, "You say it's just a stray. But tell me, does its life mean any less than yours or mine? Is its right to exist any less valid?" The man shrugged, his indifference evident. "It's just an animal," he said nonchalantly. "Is it really worth risking so much for it?" Morgan took a step closer, his eyes unwavering. "You know," he began, his voice calm but cutting, "how we treat animals says more about us than about them. Resorting to violence is easy. It takes real courage to show compassion. That dog you see as worthless, it's been through more than you could imagine. Hunger, abandonment, harm at the hands of people like you. Yet it's still alive, still trying to trust." The man faltered for a moment, his bravado cracking. He looked down, seemingly grappling with Morgan's words. "But what if it's rabid? What if it hurts me or someone else? Who takes responsibility for that?" he asked, his tone softer but still uncertain. Morgan let out a deep breath and responded firmly, "Yes, it might be sick, but that's not a reason to abandon it to die. Everyone deserves a second chance, just like you, just like me. As humans, our responsibility is to protect those who can't protect themselves. If we can't even do that for a dog, what kind of humanity are we defending?" The man stood still, visibly affected by Morgan's words. His eyes met Morgan's briefly, a flicker of guilt and realization passing through them. In a subdued voice, he said, "Maybe you're right." Before turning and walking away, his steps slow and uncertain, Morgan watched him disappear into the distance, wondering if his words had truly left an impact. He hoped they had. Sometimes, people only needed the right words to ignite a spark of change within them. Taking another deep breath, Morgan returned to the clinic. The image of the dog's frightened eyes lingered in his mind, but along with the fear, he had also seen a glimmer of hope. And that hope wasn't just for the dog, it was for humanity too. The veterinarian informed Morgan that the dog's condition was gradually improving. During the recovery process, Morgan realized the dog needed a name. Gazing into the dog's weary but hopeful eyes, he decided on Hope. "You're not just a dog," Morgan said softly. "Your story will become a story of hope." Morgan took to social media to share Hope's journey. Through heartfelt posts, he recounted the struggles and resilience of this stray dog, aiming to raise awareness about animal cruelty and the importance of compassion. The response was overwhelming. People were moved by Hope's story and began donating to support her recovery, while also showing more empathy for animals in need. Hope, once healed, was no longer filled with fear or loneliness. Morgan brought Hope to his own farm, giving her a happy and safe home. On his farm, Morgan welcomed many animals like Hope, creating not just a rescue center, but also launching an awareness campaign to inspire others. One day, while playing with Hope on the farm, a young child approached Morgan and asked, "Is this dog yours?" Morgan smiled warmly and replied, "No, she belongs to all of us. She's a symbol of love and second chances." This story marked not just a new beginning for Hope, but also a significant step toward building a more compassionate society for animals. If this meaningful story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Every like and subscription helps us reach and change the lives of more animals. Let's write more stories of hope together.